So very much different from what we've seen in the previous games. It is going to be that Azir and the Yunara still banned from that red side and from IG as they finally banned that Mbessa once again.
Yeah, and importantly as well, you know, looking at the Kiana that we were so eager to see played, it didn't really have that same impact that we thought that it would. JDG, though, found early on that Peyz' success comes from being able to carry, and I think that he and Zhuo have had a very, very solid 2 versus 2 down on that bot side. Taking the Lucian early on sort of cements that as the priority, and I think this Caitlyn ban kind of indicates that as well, that they wanted to play for something that could be aggressive early on, and taking that Caitlyn off the board gives them that extra element of safety to be able to do so.
And I know we had some question marks levied towards Peyz' Lucian from the last time we saw it, but it's still something IG were worried about, banning it away in previous games, and now going to be the first pick for JDG. So JDG know exactly where they need to put their resources. It's going to be into that young gunslinger in the bot lane. Try to make it to Worlds. It can be, though, a very tough task when you're that short range, going into a Braum, going into now the Talia, really buying a ton of space for IG early on into this draft.
This is what we talked about, especially like these short-range marksmen hate having to play versus a Talia versus a Braum, where it makes it really difficult for them to navigate teamfights without being stunned. The Wukong, though, taken away almost by Jun there, and the Nami locked in for Zhuo down on this bot side, so a very powerful bot lane duo already locked in. Not as good as it formerly has been, but still something that can definitely tear you apart if you're not expecting it down on that bot side. Would be curious to see what Gala thinks is his answer for marksman down in this bot lane. Maybe he has to go for something a lot more conservative, an Ezreal perchance, a Jhin to maybe able to fire back a little bit of early game priority with, but instead opts into the Varus, one of those go-to marksmen that you can actually have a pretty good time of things in that laning phase. They're looking to go toe-to-toe. The Braum not a slouch if he's able to get on top of marksman either. So with the Hail of Blades potentially coming through for Gala here, this could be a good way for them to try and combat early on.
Yeah, I'd be very interested at which version he wants to go for, if he wants to step up toe-to-toe against Peyz, or if he wants to go for more of that poke building. But we'll go into the second phase of bans. We'll already see top lane is the focus for IG, taking away the Jax from Xiaoxu.
Does that suggest that they maybe want something like a Yorick maybe? Could go for something that's a little bit more off the wall, but again, seems thoroughly within the IG's wheelhouse as something that they might look for. Even still, curious about what the idea is for IG with that Jax ban. Typically suggests you know, a couple of different options on that top side. The takeaway obvious almost for JDG, just ban those junglers. Let's get rid of everything that's left up. I think Xin Zhao's been banned away in every single game in this second phase in a couple of them, but still giving way a little bit less to work with.
Maybe? Do you feel like the Skarner could come through here?
Definitely an option for it. I think that it works quite nicely with the Braum as well. You line people up for the Glacial Fissure with that Impale. It's definitely not a bad takeaway if they want to take the Skarner off the board. Maybe something like the Maokai, the Sejuani as well. A little bit lower down in that priority.
All right, we'll see what their final focus is. What could be the final ban of JDG's 2025 season if they cannot put together a win on blue side in this game number 4. It is going to be the Skarner ban to get away some of that setup for Wei, but there's still so many options available, and we'll see what JDG can do with these final 2 picks for them, because they're going to have to be waiting for that counter pick for IG.
I do think Sejuani has the power to just completely, you know, Sejuani Braum as a duo as well is a very powerful combination to look at. Opens up for a good melee on the top side for TheShy as well. That is not what I was expecting. We're playing all the way back. No, that's a pick of all time. I mean, that's certainly something that works versus the Wukong, right? You try and outpace him, you try and outdamage him in team fights, and as far as JDG's composition looks at the minute, they are going all the way in, right? With Lucian, with Wukong, they want to fight forward. They've got Talia who stops that. Varus is pretty good at absorbing engages. Braum, who's incredible. And now Zyra, who is another champion who's great at absorbing engages. I think JDG, they have to double down at this point, so the Lissandra makes sense. Let's just see another dive top laner like Kled. Let's just fire that one in for the hell of it. Because they're already a dive comp. They've got no damage if they lock this in either. So I think IG are sat laughing.
Yeah, they're feeling pretty confident right now. This is a pick that Xiaoxu loves. It was also banned by IG earlier on in the series to take away a little bit of his comfort. So that is one thing that I will say is they've gotten a little bit of comfort picks for JDG's side of things. but I gotta ask a lot of questions on how this comp kind of comes together in a lot of ways. And now IG are gonna have the perfect counter pick here to try to get a little bit more going for themselves, and could be a little bit more of a fighter bruiser in the top side for TheShy.
Yeah, we'll wait to see it locked in. This now fits perfectly into their composition if that's what they want. I think that the way for JDG to win is to slaughter early and then hopefully snowball with that. They need to win early here because they're not going to have a good time as things get later. Their champions don't do the damage that they need to later on. The navigation of a teamfight for Lucian late game is awful. Lissandra, very telegraphed, very simple to try and dodge out on. And the fact that it's 5 people that all want to go forward versus a composition that just loves absorbing engages just really speaks to a difficult time of things that IG, or that JDG rather, are going to run into as we move later into this game. So it's eyes on June, pre-level 6. Can you make something work on the Wukong? It's going to be pretty difficult, but once you hit that level 6 marker, you are all gas, no brakes. It's go, go, go for you, and you need to make sure that Peyz and Zhuo are doing well also.
See the little head flick from Rookie getting locked in, but more so all eyes on JDG. I gotta say, the Lissandra might look a little bit weird. It's actually something that Scout has played a decent amount of. He has like a 60% win rate, I believe, on like almost 40 games. I think it's like 35, 36 or so. But a way to come into this game number 4 with a little bit of a wonky comp, with a lot of that dive potential, with something that can kind of set the tone earlier on than later, I guess, for JDG. And that's maybe a little bit of a turn back to what had worked for them in that game number 1.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's how they won the first match, right? They snowballed early and they took the game by the scruff of the neck, managed to really force Invictus Gaming into the dirt. But IG, a composition of players who thrive in the late game, who are going to be more than happy with this composition that they've got for themselves. They just need to weather the early game storm of JDG and coast their way to a series with T1.
We'll see if that becomes the case. Can JDG bring us to 5? A team that has been scrappy, that has had their backs against the wall so many times this year, and now once again they find themselves on the brink. Game number 4. Can IG make it to Worlds, or will JDG bring us silver scrapes?
All gas, no brakes, the mandate for JDG in this game. They are looking to send us to silver scrapes, give us a 5th game. But Invictus Gaming, just with steady, calm, patient League of Legends, should be able to send themselves all the ways to the World Play-In stage. Observers, great work highlighting already. The funneling from JDG this game is onto Peyz. He is the carry. As long as he can get some gold, accelerate himself a little bit, it may be that it's playable.
May just be. We've seen some level 1s already. Oh my god, Shun? He doesn't expect the damage from the plant. That was just one of them.
All right. That's not good, is my prognosis of the situation. Jun now going to have to clear his jungle.
Invade.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Zyra usually to invade. I mean, you've slowed her clear down by maybe 5 seconds, but you've slowed your own down by at least 10, 15. You're going to have to be constantly at least a little bit worried for how you invade. And as long as his clear goes, you know, successfully through the first 3 camps, then it might be okay. Good early ward down as well by IG. He's going to spot the Wukong on the Raptors just in case there's an early invade that comes through. But Zyra, again, a jungler who clears very, very well, very, very rapidly. And it's not like on this top side, the Lucian is going to be bullying out the top laner. This is still a Gnar, and Meiko actually already early on. I mean, if he'd have taken Ignite here, he might have been just looking to force June down.
They might indeed, and we're wondering how these lane setups are really going to affect the priority here. Jwo had already taken an early back, going over to help heal Shun in this tussle. Meiko just being a nuisance right now. As we will see Peyz in the top side. TheShy going for the trade. This is a ADC versus a top laner. And TheShy able to get a little bit of damage, but Peyz skirting very nicely around some of it. Does this benefit IG, though, as they're going to move over and force Shun out of the jungle? This is what happens when you put yourself so far behind, and now he's locked down. You got the concussive blows. The piercing arrow not going to be enough. Ends up flashing away from it.
way crossed through mid lane to try and make this play happen. They do manage to take the flash. They manage to steal away a couple of the CS as well. And Zhuo, still level 1, makes his way up to this top side. He can give an ebb and flow, but there's no E here. There's nothing to stop TheShy from being able to get back out to safety. I think the problem is that with the way this wave is pushing, it's a pretty awkward timer for him. So it's going to mean that he probably loses out on a little bit of XP. Zhuo needing to get to level 2 before they can truly punish, but I think that actually this wave has started to come back towards him, and JDG kind of messing a little bit with that wave.
Going to use some of the movement speed to get TheShy down. He's going to try to use the jump out. God, TheShy's taking a brunt of damage here. Meiko's finally going to come up towards top set, but hey, we've seen this story before. We've seen TheShy go down 1-6 and still end up being a big carry in the game, so we'll see if JDG fall for the same trap yet again. But when we're looking at the lane states and things like that, I mean, we are seeing that JDG are fully opting into keeping these lane swaps.
It's about funneling gold into Peyz at the end of the day, and if they do that through just gold, it might not be enough. If they're doing it through experience as well, this is the way to accelerate him over Gala. But you can see that Meiko's made his way down to, or up to this top side now, and you know, Gala's pretty much maybe 2-3 creeps behind. Zhuo blocks the Q. Really well done there to make sure that Peyz can get back to safety. And I mean, this is just so good for IG. The whole point of this game is for JDG to snowball early, and the Jun invade lost them so much so early that it just seems impossible for them to try and claw their way back. But they're going to have to try and find some sort of a way.
They are indeed, and it's not going to be the way on the other side.
No.
But we do see a return to, I guess, a little bit of normalcy after that earlier game. Peyz is going to be back down home in bot side. And we're going to see both top laners rejoin that top side fight, as now Dragon is spawned. Wei could do this pretty quickly. It is going to be under vision here. Gala has TP'd back with that Hail of Blades build, and the TP is his second summoner spell. Keep priority around this objective.
Looking at the items as well, it doesn't really feel like they're too far apart. Peyz just dashed in. Got a good chunk onto Gala, in fairness.
Okay, now Shun going to come around the corner. It is a 3v3. You got to expect if one single piece of lockdown hits JDG, that is the difference in a lot of these earlier game fights.
And Rookie's got prio in mid lane as well. Not only that, he's got the Weaver's Wall to make his way down here that little bit faster. So always that ticking time bomb of the mid lane in favor of Invictus Gaming there, so they can consistently feel like they can look for these plays. And you can see Jun maybe getting a little bit desperate. What's a level 5 Wukong going to do here? Maybe if the bubble lands, it's okay. But Zhuo needs to look for this.
Gala,
this is
he
it.
still has flash. You got to expect he's waiting for it. He gets out of the bubble, and that means Shun can't really step forward. Wei is on his way down here. They've got to know that it's a 3v3, but they have the health bar advantage. Shun going to get spotted out by the scanner, decides to just unleash his fury onto Meiko. Does mean that Wei will back away from that 3v3. There was a move from Scout as well. Wasn't going to find anything, though, and Rookie's going to go back to pushing mid.
Yeah, I think that 3v3 is very favored for IG. It's the fact that Scout can get down there as well is the big thing that deters Invictus Gaming from looking for that fight. But they've weathered the storm early. They've found their way into this Dragon now, and once again, this is a composition for JDG that needs to win early, that needs to be finding these Dragons. The fact that they're losing out on this is a really big deal. They're going to have to try and find these 3 grubs, or I think that their chances through this game do get really, really low. I think the saving grace for JDG is that as this game gets later, they're going to have the Lissandra passive. Yeah. And there's not a real front line for Invictus Gaming to be able to stand in front of. And maybe with just a reset from Lissandra, you can burst the first target down, look to reset your way through the fight, and try to play front to back. But that's not easy, and I don't really know how you can get access to one individual target if IG play appropriately.
It's all about the setup and the fact that IG have so much utility on their side of things. We are going to be getting closer and closer to first items. We also have the grub fight, which has been pivotal in a lot of the games here so far, coming up in just about 20 seconds.
Harking our way back to game number 1, it was Meiko who flubbed the engage, and Scout who benefited from it. 2 former world champions up against one another looking to join. Flandra joined Viper already with their signed, sealed spots at Worlds. Only one of them can join their former teammates and compete on that global stage once again.
We have had the readaptation of the bot lanes towards the top. It is going to be the already set up grub start by JDG and Xun, but because Peyz was forced to get out of the lane, now Xun will have to pull off of the grubs, and this is a perfect setup for IG. I mean, they love some of these AoE situations as one of the grubs will be taken away. Bubble's going to land onto Meiko. Rookie waiting for the Weaver's wall right around the corner. You can see him trying to set it up. Chains of Corruption is there. The lockdown chain that can come through from IG is immense, as it'll be a trade of 1-to-1 for the grubs. We're going to get the engage on Meiko. Meiko's going to have to be forced to flash away. Should be the remaining grub going to JDG, and they do make good on it.
Okay, good bubble there. Catches Meiko prior to that wall going up. Means that some good damage can come through, and a flash away from Meiko keeps him alive. Really small thing prior to that, though. The auto-attack range difference between a Varus and a Lucian fully exemplified as Gala, with just 1 Q on Peyz, fully spaces him out. And means that he has to burn the cleanse. And honestly, I was expecting that fight to look a little bit different because the cleanse was down. Even still, it's a win overall for JDG, fighting 2 of the 3 grubs, and forcing the flash from Meiko is hopefully something that they can look to punish a little bit later on.
And we're wondering if these first item spikes are going to make a big difference, but we are going to see a little bit of calming of the rift. And I say that, and TheShy is getting the better of Xiaoxu on the bot side. And both of them still having TP up, so this is just a lead right now for TheShy. See if he gets answered to. There's going to be a lot of presence on the top side of the map from IG. I got to say, though, it's been such a back and forth, pull of the rope between Xun, between Wei. 2 guys who know each other so damn well after making incredible runs on that BLG squad just last year. Wei part of that team still at the beginning of this year. But a very vastly different end of the year that is on the precipice for both of them. And only one of them can come out the victor in this one.
Look to try and stop the recall with this. Smart play here by TheShy. Drops his boomerang, but it's all for the greater good here as Rookie.
Oh, Rookie. He gets completely locked, and now only about same health trade between the two, but Wei going to oppress Xun in his own jungle yet again. Down about 20 CS now. And potentially losing out on a little bit more as a dive could come through. The Stranglethorns are available, and Peyz and Shuo don't have much health when it comes down to it. They're going to get the TP out of Scout, though, so that should pull IG off of the play. You can see how low the blue buff was just for being left with the plants of Wei, but now Xun will be spotted out moving over towards mid.
And ultimately, it's him who has to catch this mid lane. We're now sharing experience between 2 solo laners, or between 2 theoretical solo laners at least, but completely, not what you want to see from JDG, and IG making these really good map moves to really stabilize and set up for a good way into this mid to late game.
And it's really just about getting these objectives under tow. I mean, we have 50 seconds. It could be a second dragon for IG, just pushing the tempo of how JDG have to navigate some of these fights in the end. And because they have some of these item advantages as well, it's going to be even better for them. I mean, you have Leandries, you have the Archangels coming through as well, and the Yumus completed for Gala.
Mazel, I've got a question.
Yes.
Top side, we saw some great spacing from Gala onto Peyz. Where could I find out how to do that?
I think you could figure it out from some previous and former and current pros at prodiff.gg. As Peyz throwing a little bit of a pro diff in mid lane, you can go improve your game by getting coaching from ERL, NACL, and LTA players and coaches. You get a little bit of a code difference with LPL 10 to save 10%, and prodiff.gg to get all of your leveling up needs when it comes to learning League of Legends.
Hopefully they can teach me how to solo a dragon like Wei is right now on this Zyra. Having a pretty good time of things. Doesn't really look like there's any problems that are going to come his way either. And again, to re-emphasize the problems for JDG this game as Zhuo gets caught.
Okay, they just think they can all in onto him, but Peyz has a really good angle over the wall. It's a bit of an overzealous Glacial Fissure there by Meiko, but still going to try to get something there, and it is JDG reforming ranks around this mid lane, trying to use some of this bread and butter for themselves, try to get this Peyz and Zhuo combo somewhere and get a little bit of gold on them. It will always be a powerful combo, and Scout has now completed his item as he moves back onto the ring.
You're still getting to see that this Lucian does have some semblance of power early on, despite the fact that it's now down in XP. And again, Peyz got funneled solo XP early on by laning top lane. The fact that he's down in experience versus Gala is a pretty big deal. And again, not what you want to see as JDG, but in this in the 2 versus 2, the 1 versus 1, you can still have some pretty good run of things, some good trades, and the opportunity to fight is still there. But we still need to see JDG come alive almost. We need to see them scrap around an objective. We've got Herald spawning in 90 seconds. Would love to see them try and make some sort of waves, instead of what is currently a very neutered early game where they've not accomplished anything against a composition that will absolutely destroy them later on.
Well, you know, if they're looking for control over the waves, at least they have Nami. And that tidal wave is going to be extremely important, as Duo has had major impact in this series, and especially in those first couple games. Was a little bit quiet in that game number 3. See just the push and pull in mid lane, like the ebb and flow. See, we got to tie in all the abilities wherever we can. But it's really a lot of that onus, a lot of that pressure on the JDG shoulders now. And now that Rift Herald's coming up in less than a minute, you have to start thinking about this vision setup for both teams. I mean, IG love to fight around these choke points.
And fight they will, Mazel, here with this really good chunk onto Peyz. Again, as far as IG's organization goes, they're trying to set themselves up and make sure that they're ready for this Rift Herald in 30 seconds. Xiaoxu posturing up against TheShy here. Might even look for a bit of a commit. Good hyper.
He did just lose Mega.
Yeah.
God, he's spacing so well there, though. The Scuttle Crab will be secured by JDG, though.
Oh, do they know Scouts here? Scouts made the move up whilst Rookie's still bot lane.
Looking for the lockdown onto Meiko. Meiko's life will be forfeit. Unfortunately, Duo picks up that kill in the end, but they will get the soul out. Rookie takes a side lane turret on the Talia. So getting a little bit of that standing gold for IG, keeping their advantage under tow. And it still will be the Rift Herald started up by JDG.
I wonder if Meiko can spellbook over to the teleport. He does. They can get back out here. This isn't a sure thing with this Herald. TP into the mid lane by Rookie. Meiko going to look to do the same thing a little bit deeper.
Corruption. Tries to get the damage down. Rookie is here too. Duo gets wombo comboed. And now you got TheShy in the backline, but he can't go Mega, and he just gets completely blasted by Shun. And now in the pit he goes, but it's smoted by Wei. He gets the steal of the Rift Herald, but Peyz in some trouble now as IG look to press forward. They've lost their front line. Xiaoxu is left to abandon that mid, and that is going to be Wei getting the double kill. Rookie trying to place down Peyz, but it's still holistically IG's favor here. All of a sudden, from a 2,000 gold lead, they're 4K up 16 minutes in.
If we exclude the early pick onto Meiko, that's a 4-for-1 for Invictus Gaming. Again, just pushing themselves faster and faster into this mid-game, into the stage of the game where they are going to thrive. The organization that built the super team is finally coming up clutch in this World's Qualification Series, and Gala picks out Zhuo there. The nice seismic shove follow-up from Rookie means that the Nami has absolutely no chance. And despite the fact that Scout buys all this time, there's nobody there to follow up. Rookie does a great job at effectively 1v1ing Peyz. That AD carry who'd got so much gold put into him early on, so much of the onus on his shoulders, he's just not able to pay it forward when it matters most. And Gala able to save his jungler there with an errant auto attack, keeping Wei alive.
God, and the little movement from Wei to get the double grasping, and just some of the micro movements in these fights that IG have had. I mean, you've looked at Gala the entire time. The guy has been Super Saiyan since game number 2, but the rest of the team is starting to pick up the slack. It is no longer 4 dead bodies being dragged across the finish line by Gala. They are stepping up, and at the time that IG needs it most. 6 long years it's been since this organization has seen Worlds, and it's a legendary organization in the LPL. And here they are with JDG pressed to the ropes, and Gala getting flashed on by Peyz, but he can't get him. The Stranglethorn comes through. Glacial Fisher, he's going to get the kill. Meiko kills Peyz, and not like this, JDG. I saw them falter in a heartbreaking fashion last year with Ruler and this final effort in the finals, and here we go again. JD's heartbreak knows no bounds, but Rookie is the focus now on the side lane. He's trying to be taken down by Scout and Xiaoxu. He should be Rookie out of there. He's going to get a lot of damage on his Xiaoxu here. He's going to get locked down by the Frozen Tomb and taken down by his opponent's Scout.
They needed that desperately. Just something to go their way is going to be a big win for JDG, but you can see that they're losing so much mid lane. Meiko just dancing through Jun there to make sure that they're getting the charge onto the tier 2 turret, as well as that dragon falling and a denial of the turret falling on that top side as well. Yes, they find one pick onto Rookie, but it just doesn't matter. They're getting so much across the rest of the map that IG continue to thrive, and it's Peyz looking aggressively here for this pick onto Gala. Dodging out on the Chain of Corruption is good, and then as soon as Gala rounds this corner, knows that he has to flash. Unfortunately, Peyz not quite able to get his full combo down within enough time. Wanted to cancel his ult, get an auto attack, and then a Q woven in. Unfortunately, a flash out means that there's not that possibility. There isn't that time for Peyz, and Gala baits him. It's a very solid play that comes on through for the rest of IG, making it so that Gala doesn't fall and also baiting in 2 members.
And we are going to have a 23-minute soul fight for IG. That is not where you want to be for JDG. I know we talked about maybe there's that wiggle room in the early game to have an advantage, but they didn't find that. And now they really need to have some scaling, some items under them, but they're going to be forced to fight way earlier than they're ready for. And you already have 2 items coming through for a couple carries for IG. Add a con in 30 seconds, they could force the tempo on that, and IG have everything going for them.
Again, the organization that built the super team at the start of 2025, a organization that had so frequently been all about developing their youth, developing their own talent, hadn't worked for the last 6 years. They went all out at the start of 2025 and it just failed them. Split 1, they went out with a whimper. Now looking for TheShy.
They're going to pick him off, but how much has that mattered in the end throughout all of this? It is going to be a big pick, and you can continue, Roodood.
They built this roster from scratch almost at the start of this year. Split 1 was a failure. They bummed out of playoffs. Split 2, barely even coaxing their way into it. But split number 3 has felt different from the start. TheShy back to his former glory, carrying IG through the early part of this season. Not before a falter in the playoffs through this postseason. Now, though, they have to come up clutch without that top laner. No TP, dead for 10 seconds, and Atacon has been started here.
They're not going to pull it, though. In the end, they're going to back away. And when we look down the line of some of these moments, right, you're wondering like what this means to a lot of these players. We talked so much about Rookie having not been back to Worlds in 6 years. Scout, since he won his World Championship, has been back every year. Maybe this is not the year for him. It has not been. But now, he's got to put up or shut up. Peyz has not missed a single World since he came in to that Tier 1 starting spot for Gen G. And they got to pull it out of the bootstraps now. I mean, Atacon's going down. Atacon's already gone, and Wei has claimed it. Now you got the play from JDG escaping, but Xiaoxu will sacrifice himself once again. And I don't think that's the sacrifice that's going to get them a win here. IG, they're pushing down bot lane. They're looking for lasting damage against Jingdong.
Need to be careful in this brush. Rowan Peyz fishing, but a great little spot by Wei keeps them all at bay. And they're going to be able to take this tier 2 turret. They did meaningful damage to the health bars of JDG. They're not able to stick around and defend this. Ocean Soul Mazel spawns in 2 minutes, to 1:45 to be specific. And we're looking at the gold lead, we're looking at the items, we're looking at the carries of JDG. There's just no way that they can take that fight. Surely the soul goes over, and surely this is IG just doing their victory march.
And my bias is going to start showing through, and I'm sorry. But after watching Rookie fail year after year and being on the sidelines to watch that and to be so close so many times, to finally be on the precipice to make a difference, to shoo away that looming shadow of a curse that's been standing over Summoner's Rift and that's been standing over Rookie all these years, it's an incredible sight. I had a lot of promise in this team when they first came together. I was like, maybe they finally bring respect back to the LPL. They didn't domestically, but they could do one of the craziest things ever if they do win this series and move on to face T1 and take them down. And after all these years for this organization to be back in a place of promise, to be back in a place where you can be proud to be an Invictus Gaming fan, it's an incredible thing.
And let's not forget, right, you mentioned it there, what awaits them if they win this series. A date with T1 in the play-in stage to get to Worlds, to get to play at Swiss. Xiaoxu goes all in onto TheShy. Flashes out, jashes out as well. And it's that top laner for IG who I want to highlight once more, as he's done this, he's been there before.
He's frozen tuned. He's getting in trouble now as well. Glacial Fisher's going to come back. Whose power of ice is going to be stronger?
Come the army.
He wasn't able to get the damage down. Peyz is trying to kite through. The chains of corruption are going to hit TheShy. Tries to go for the big wall up, gets the kill. No, he can't. It's IG that falter in the moment that mattered most. They do end up killing soon on the back end of it, but they lose a couple key pieces, and that dragon is going to be a lot harder to come by for IG.
They lose 3, but importantly, Jun is dead. JDG don't feel confident to go for this 50-50, because that's what it would be, especially up against a Varus. We've seen so many monumental Varus steals in not just domestic, but international play previously. Rookie and Gala, especially when they've got double TPs available, might just stick around and might just look to be the thorn in the side once again.
I don't know if I like this. JDG putting a lot of promise in this fight. The Unstoppable comes through there.
Look who's walking as well.
JDG losing some health here. Rookie coming over. That's going to be the TP coming from TheShy. It's getting low. It's getting desperate. IG,
quickly, JDG.
I'm scared as Gala takes the dragon. And IG, they can do no wrong. Scout is all alone. And that might just be the tail of the tape.
And try as they might, JDG in regional qualifiers just does not work. IG steal away the soul from JD Gaming and force them now to have to do the unimaginable. Down 5,000 gold, down an Ocean Soul, win a game with a composition that you don't scale well with.
And I swear to God, Gala heard somebody talking shit. This guy has been absolutely monstrous this series. Everything but that game number 1 going his way, and we see him steal the permanent soul for IG.
And it looks good here. This fight is good for JDG. They find 3, they only lose 1, and they play with their health bars beautifully. Some of that core JDG memory that we've seen from them have in this entire, play-ins, the playoffs as well. They did so well for the most part, but they spent just a little bit too long dilly-dallying around, not really knowing what it was that they were supposed to do, and lost out on the fight on the back half of that, losing that dragon, losing out on the soul as well.
Oh my God. And
now IG start this up.
It's literally a desperate spiral right now from JDG. They just feel like they can't get anything. They need to do something. Duo is stepping up there as well. Peyz is going to dash away from TheShy, but he gets him into the wall with the Mega Gnar. Xiaoxu down too. No more resets from the Lissandra. Shun tries to find an entrance on the backside of the fight, but now he's locked down. He's going to use his clone to get away. Now going in is Xiaoxu, but he's getting chunked. He got CC'd. He's going down low. You got TheShy on the other side. Goes through. Gala gets the kill in the end. Now Peyz going to calling for his life, but he can't do it. He doesn't have the damage.
The Ocean Soul's just too much. Mazel and IG win yet another one. The Baron up in their eyes. And it's IG just steamrolling their way to Worlds.
It just seems like that's fate at this point. JDG have fallen into the trap, and IG have clamped it shut. Baron going their way. 26.5 minutes in. An Elder Dragon fight in 3.5 minutes, but you gotta expect the siege is nigh onto JDG's base.
And how good would it be for Invictus Gaming finally, after all these years, all these iterations of rosters, and you can't help but look at that man in the mid lane, all the times that he'd been denied Worlds, and all the times in the pre-show they talked about it, that he was on the rosters that couldn't quite get in there. We take a look back at another fight of JDG throwing their heads against a brick wall. Meiko with the Unbreakable keeps 3 at bay. Then on the backside, TheShy keeps 3 more. We didn't really see this fight on the top side of it, Rookie versus Jun, but you can see he's earning himself his spot back at Worlds, taking down Jun here. Flashes over the wall just to add insult to injury.
And it's so poetic that after those 6 long years, it's a reunion of the guys that brought that star to Invictus Gaming, of TheShy and Rookie. Yes, JD at the start of the year, but it really was these guys who wanted to put all that pressure on themselves. And now that they're back, IG are also back and potentially looking at that 4th seed now. Still Baron up for for another 2 minutes on these IG laners. They're going to be looking to push in this bot and mid. Still 2.5 minutes is now already. Shun's going to have to pop the clone. Got engaged on there in the mid lane with a Stranglethorn from Wei, but the siege is coming in the bot lane now, and this Ocean Dragon Soul is so hard to manage.
And look at the minimap here. Scout's top lane trying to work his way through a tier 1 turret to try and get just that little bit of gold back for their team, but it's just not enough. Tier 2's falling in mid lane. Now they're onto the tier 3, and for JDG it feels like the beginning of the end. And we'd be remiss not to talk about that man in the bot lane here, Mazel, who carried them through game 2, which looked like it was going to be JDG's win, which was the linchpin for this series, the turning point, if you will. All off the back of Gala, who is 6-0-4 and chunking JDG under their Nexus turrets.
This team, they can be proud of what they represented here. It was 3 hard losses that IG faced up against. They were backs against the wall of this series. We said, what is this IG team doing?
Here they go.
And now they're on the cusp. They're on the edge, and Gala's getting engaged on now. Xiaoxu tries to find him. They get
He
the kill,
does go down.
Resets. IG now in some trouble. They're going too far forward. TheShy gets the kill in the end, but Wei, he's still alive. He's still chunking. He has the Stranglethorn back. He's going to get 2. Shun getting low. Scout's going to go down. TheShy tries to get the wall up, but can't kill him. Scout's going down to the bird. TheShy finds another one. TheShy and Wei, they're tag teaming for the end.
And when it matters most, Mazel, they're going to do it. Baron minions out their back. One Nexus turret down.
After 6 long years, there's no freaking way. Redemption for IJ is upon us, set in the stars from the beginning of the year. These legendary pillars of the LPL will come to life. And for the first time since 2019, Rookie's going to Worlds, baby.
And it's a big game for them to have to play. A date with T1 awaits them. Rookie versus Faker to determine the East's next contributor to the world stage. What a series we're in for. What a series we've had.
Take a bow, IG. The ups and downs that this team has faced for so long, for Rookie himself. I know it's Invictus Gaming, but goddamn, Rookie was so damn close so many years. It was not his fault on so many of those occasions. And we finally get to see the GOAT back at Worlds, man. I can't even. Congratulations to Invictus Gaming. I'm going to go cry off screen now. We have our deskers ready to go. Root, I want to give you one last chance. Any thoughts before we head it over to them?
Thank you to everybody who's been here for all of this year to see IG's journey. Let's pass it off. Thank you very much. Desk, take it away.
What a cast! What
Let's
a
go!
series.
Let's go! We're going to Worlds! Woo! Let's go!
You earned it. Take that clown. That clown makeup can come off. Your quest has finally been achieved, Alk. IG, after 6 years, are gonna make it to Worlds, and guess what? They just needed a Rookie back. That's all it took.
Thank God. Holy crap. I was ready to go to game 5. I was a little questionable about whether or not the Zyra was going to work, but we played range, and we talked about it during the desk, during the break, but I cannot believe in the last series of the year for JDG, Scout was not the problem, it was Peyz. God damn, bro.
It's unbelievable. If you would have told me that, you know, IG3 won this series, I might have believed you. I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Not like this. I mean, this was just truly one of those series that everything was kind of going against the grain, and it comes out with one of the most satisfying conclusions I think that you can look for with, you know, players like Rookie and TheShy being able to reunite and get back onto the world stage. You know, we're going to talk a lot about JDG throughout this. I want to give them at least a little bit of credit for even being here in the first place. This is a team that I think a lot of people counted out. Did they show up today? Kind of, but not enough. And, you know, there's a lot to criticize. We'll get into kind of the replays of the game, but, you know, how can you not be excited for a team in Invictus that has now punched their ticket to the World Championships?
Man, it feels bad again for, you know, a player like Shun who moves back from BLG over to this new roster, wanting to prove himself, and I honestly think he did. At the end of the day, regardless of not being able to qualify, this guy proved he could be a really top-level jungler here into the LPL. But at the end of the day, it's his old partner in crime in Wei on IG that sets up on it this unique Zyra pick, Alk, that you were really excited about, and ends up being a really big part of this game alongside Gala. The zone control that this composition had here in this Game 4 really did make the difference.
We saw complete dominance in terms of range. Like, it starts off with Shun trying to invade and try to put down this Zyra early, which I think in theory works, but the way that it goes down, he loses 80% of its HP thanks to it being an electrocute Zyra. So already Shun's on the back foot to start, and then you come into a game, how are we ever getting picks? We're basically saying, okay, well, hopefully Rookie doesn't have flash, we can use the Nami wave or the Nami bubbles. Peyz is supposed to be a large brunt of our damage with this electrocute Lucian. Never works. Nothing ever gets done. Like, the Zyra and the Taliyah combo, double AP, I was a little bit worried, but we made it happen. TheShy actually showed up in game number 4. Like, everything went right for us. All of the good things that I was talking about IG came true here for tonight. I think maybe either they were saving their energy versus top esports, or Danny was really trying to make me work for this win, man.
It's the heart attack. That's what you play for. That's what Invictus is
Yes.
built for here. Is
Entertainment.
The heart attack. Yes, that's the only thing that we can possibly say about this. Because to win it, and to win it on this draft, I think is just, it's incredible. It's so fun. It's so incredibly entertaining. And I'm just excited. I do want to, talk a little bit about Invictus. Like, this was an org that last year was like struggling to even try and compete for top 10, top 11, and 1 year later they're back here in the upper echelon thanks to the individual play that I think they got from everybody. Look at the damage chart. I mean, that is a team effort. That is everybody stepping up. That is everybody doing their job. There was not a single weak link on Invictus. We talked about consistency. Here's your consistent game. Here is them going out and being better and being who we know they can be in the biggest of moments, and they've earned this going to Worlds sub 30 minutes.
Only objective that ends up going in favor of JDG is 2 grubs. 2 grubs and a turret. What happened to JDG in this series, man? Like, they started off the first 2 or 3 games with a gold lead versus their opponents. Game 3 was a lot more even, but still, IG then close out. Like, yes, it came together at the very last moment.
Yeah, the early games definitely were not the same level of high quality from JDG as we got later and later on into this series. As we take a look at some of these replays here, a huge play around this Rift Herald that really ended up, breaking this game open for Invictus Gaming. It starts off with Gala finding that chain of corruption onto Zhuo, and, again, another instance where Peyz gets chunked out and is never really able to join the fight.
It really was an ADC diff. I mean, there's not really much else to talk about on that front. Gala was exceptional in this series. His positioning in this game was incredibly good, and you can talk about the previous performances. The Kaisa comes to mind, but he was incredible in Game 2 as well on the Callista. Like he really was the better ADC, and Peyz did not step up, and I think that's really showcased in a lot of these clips where you are seeing Gala free hit, where you're seeing him kind of be able to dodge and duck around a lot of the skill shots that are being flown out, whereas Peyz has to constantly be put into a bad position. He's flashing over the wall to be more aggressive in this play, but a lot of those flashes did not go according to plan. I mean, let's not pretend like every single flash Peyz made this game was good. So it ends up being a spot where Gala's setup, his execution, all of it was better. The bot lane diff was very much in favor of IG.
And it's heartbreak again for Peyz, who was trying to do what Ruler was unable to do with this JDG organization a year ago, make it to the World Championships, get a chance to play up against T1 and Faker. But unfortunately, it's tragedy in the simplest way for JDG, getting eliminated at the exact same stage of the tournament as they did a year ago, despite all 5 players on this roster arc being different from that 2024 iteration.
And we talked about kind of that Peyz, I think with this series, might be cemented as like he is always going to have the shadow of Ruler behind him, just with where his track record has been. You look at the start of his career, you look at it now, at least for the next year and a half, 2 years, that is going to kind of be a monkey on his back, at least from a community perspective. And I'm looking at what was happening in the series and kind of what we saw from the rest of JDG here today. I think, like, you kind of look at what IG were able to put together. I'm really sad because JDG, I think, were a better matchup versus T1, and we'll get into that as we close out the show. But IG showed that they were better around objectives in all of this entire, like, playoffs and regional finals. A huge criticism for JDG was we cannot play around objectives. We have no idea how we're setting up. I think that there were a lot of really rushed setups coming in from Shin and the rest of the squad. And IG are a team that can be really calm, collected, and poised. So I think it's just a bad stylistic matchup in that way. And we also didn't see JDG close out games. There's multiple points in this series where we could have been 2-0 up. We could have been potentially 3-0 out of this one.
See our player of the game going away.
Oh. We saw this coming. I think we talked about this a bit on the desk. The Zyra was massive in this game. I do want to give a lot of props to Gala because I think he was really good throughout this series. And I know we don't do a player of the series, but I think Gala would very much be the one that I think a lot of people would point to there. But Wei here in game number 4, you want to talk about game altering? I mean, before level 1, right? Before the clear, like that chunk onto Wukong, it made the game so hard from the first couple seconds that we were in Summoner's Rift. Wei stepping up against a former teammate of his in Shun, and you know, we called him a liability for a lot of this year. He was definitely not the case here in his qualification game.
Definitely not. I know there was always big debates about, you know, should JJ have been replaced by Wei in the first place? It was originally maybe some personal issues, and then JJ comes in, just never comes back, and then Wei just takes over the rest of the time, and definitely had some question marks about it. But Wei stepped up here in this crucial series and has allowed for IG and, you know, more importantly,